Rev up your engines! Okay, you're driving down the road and reduced engine power light comes on in your car. What does that mean and what should you do? Well, stay tuned because I'm going to tell you what it means. Your engine now is driving under a reduced power mode. It means that there is something wrong with your car, so the computer is going into that mode so no damage is done to the car. You might notice it's stumbling, not running quite as well. Maybe it only goes to a certain speed. Maybe the temperature gauge is starting to get high. But it's something that you want to fix as soon as possible. Now, as long as your engine isn't going clangety clang 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 and it's not overheating and getting into the red, it's generally okay to at least drive it somewhere cautiously. But if you see the temperature gauge is getting to the hot, the engine's clacking like mad, the car's just jerking like mad, no, you want to stop and have it towed somebody. But there are a lot of reasons that light comes on, and it behooves you to see, is it something that at least I can make it to a garage or make it home if you fix it yourself? This is one big reason that I tell people they should have a code reader in their car. Either a dongle like this blue driver that plugs in to the OBD port, and then you can read it with your smartphone. That thing's like 99 bucks when they're on sale. You could get a cheap little code reader like this Autel that costs 29 bucks. It's an AL319. It can read the codes. You can look up what the codes mean, and you can decide how far you want to go. Since there's so many things that can cause this, from a weak battery to a bad sensor on the motor, to a problem inside the transmission, to an overheating engine, all the way to the main computer of the car, it behooves you to figure out what system is going out. For instance, maybe it's got a problem in the transmission in second gear. If you're driving a car on the highway, in this car, you're going to be like in fifth gear. Doesn't matter. You could drive it wherever you want it and then fix it later on. Just realize that second gear is your problem. Now, let's say it says you have a cooling system problem. Of course, watch your temperature gauge, right? Getting hot, stop, find out what's wrong and fix it. Some people, I've seen this happen, they were just low on coolant. Shut the car off, let it cool down. Maybe it's just low on coolant. You can add some coolant. Now, here's the thing. Cars are made to run on 50% coolant and 50% water. So, in a pinch, you can just put pure water in, and later you can drain it out and put half antifreeze and half water. It'll run perfectly fine on water, unless it's 40 below, in which case it will eventually freeze, but as long as you're running the car, it's not going to freeze, right? So, it behooves you to find out why this light is on. Now, since you get so much more information from this blue driver for 99 bucks, hey, I'd spend, the extra 60 bucks versus one that's just a simple one. But at least the simple one's going to give you some information. And of course, the more information you have, the better you're going to be off. But do realize this. If that reduced power comes on and your check engine light is flashing on, off, on, off, on, off, the check engine light flashes on, off, because it's telling you your car is running so poorly that it is going to damage your catalytic converter. All right? Catalytic converters cost an awful lot of money. I would not advise driving it that way very far. Maybe if you saw 10 miles away there was a gas station or a place, go ahead and do that. But if you're stuck somewhere, you got to go a long way. You're better to just find the nearest place you can stop at and get your car towed somewhere. Now, since the level of seriousness of what's wrong with your car can vary immensely when that reduced engine power comes on. I got some redneck customers here in Tennessee. That reduced power thing has been on for the last 5 years. They don't do state inspections here, and they know the vehicle runs poorly. They know that burns a quart of oil every 100 miles. They keep adding oil so the engine doesn't blow up, right? In those cases, as long as the engine isn't going clacka, clacka, clacka all the time, and the temperature gauge isn't going into the hot, a lot of people will drive them for quite some time, which is why I have to emphasize the use of a scan tool. Like I say, you don't want to spend much, buy that $29 Autel. Works perfectly fine. You can look the code up, see what it is, or perhaps you don't mind going halfway and get this 70 plus scan tool in between the two. It's an AL519, as you can see. It's auto link. It also gives an explanation of codes. This is 0171, and then all you do is push the question mark, and look what comes up. Intake leak after mass flow sensor, restriction in fuel system, spark plugs of excessive wear, faulty bank 1 sensor, 1 oxygen sensor. Now, none of those are generally to do any kind of damage. Your car won't run right. It's already under reduced power. I realize when that sign comes up, the computer is restricting the power the engine can pull out, so you'll notice there's somewhat of a restriction, right? But in this case, you'd know, well, maybe later I'll check the spark plugs. Maybe the fuel filter's clogged up. Maybe I have an intake leak on the system somewhere after the mass airflow sensor. There's the air filter. Anywhere from here on in, there could be an intake leak, which you could find later. And if that's the case, you will generally find the car will run worse at lower speeds because a leak, when you're going slow, changes the air-fuel ratio to have too much air and not enough fuel. But it affects it more at slower speeds because at slower speeds, it uses less air and less fuel. And at higher speeds, it's spraying a lot more fuel. And that leak, generally they're relatively small, that leak will have less of an effect on the engine when it's going at highway speeds. I've seen cars that have a code like that, they'd stumble some when they're idling and accelerating, but once you got to 60, they ran perfectly fine, in which case you could drive wherever you're going and fix it later. Like I say, these scan tools are invaluable, and if you don't mind spending 70 bucks, this is probably the best $70 one that I ever found. So of course the big question is, can you drive it that way? Well, typically, yes, because it's indicating that the car's computer has entered the safety mode to prevent any kind of damage. We call it limp home. It says reduced power. Mechanics call it limp home. It can be a problem with sensors, fuel delivery, making it reduce. It could be a problem in your transmission. But let's be logical. Let's say you're driving on a road like that. You have to be vigilant. You have to be as vigilant as me. Of course, I'm a mechanic, so I'm anal about it. When I drive down the highway, every minute or more, I look at the temperature gauge just to make sure something's not going wrong. You never know when a hose or something's going to blow when you own cars like me that are anywhere from 17 to 30 years old. So I'm always on the lookout. And you have to use your ears. If the engine starts clanking like mad, it's time to pull over. Maybe you'll get lucky and find out you just ran out of engine oil and you need more oil. Now, generally, Toyotas don't burn oil, but my grandson's '07 Camry does because it had the engine with those bad piston rings that blow by oil and burn oil. So if you got one of those, heck, leave a gallon of oil in a plastic jug in the back for when you need it. And also keep an eye out back from what's coming out of your tailpipe. If you look behind you and you see a bunch of smoke coming out, it's time to pull over, baby. And likewise, if you see smoke or smell smoke or antifreeze or burning electrical components coming into the cabin from under the hood, pull over. But truthfully, these things are much more rare in modern cars. You got a junker, you know it, right? But most cars these days, because of computer software and federal regulations, can often, when they have a relatively minor problem, put that reduced engine power light on, go into limp home mode. You will notice the difference if you do notice how your cars drive. Some people don't. But if you're traveling, that's especially why you better have one of these little scan tools lying around your car. If that reduced power comes on, it actually has reduced power, and you bring it to a garage and say, my car says reduced power and it's not running right, they will often try to sell you the kitchen sink, and maybe the whole kitchen at the same time. I have had more customers get ripped off when they're on vacation if their car broke down and they had no idea what was going on. But with one of these scan tools, and you can immediately look up what it means. You don't even need any kind of internet connectivity or phone connectivity, even if you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. This data, the definitions, it's all on this. It's one advantage of having a standalone. You're not using your cell phone, so you're not dependent on cell phone information from the internet. It's got all that stuff already in there. It's amazing what they've done with these scan tools. I mean, something like this decades ago would have cost thousands of dollars. Now it's 70 bucks, so it really behooves you to have something like that. If that light comes on, just for your own peace of mind, and just so they don't take too many pieces out of your wallet when they actually try to fix the thing. Now here's some more warning lights that often freak people out in Toyotas. A lot of times you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you see ABS, traction control, check engine light. They're all on at the same time. You think, Oh my God, my car's falling apart. Well, not necessarily so with a Toyota. Most of their software systems are set up this way. You check engine light, if it comes on and it trips certain codes, it will automatically turn off the ABS, traction control, and if it has any kind of vehicle assistance, VSA, it'll often turn the light on too because it shuts those systems down. It's a software thing with Toyota and a safety thing. You know, they don't want you to depend on losing engine power if they already lost engine power because something's wrong. I have seen something as simple as a bad ignition coil on one of the 6 cylinders, like in a Sienna, trip all those codes, and all it needed was one ignition code. Again, that's why I'm telling you, one of these. You'll often get like misfire, cylinder number 5. All you got to do is take the coil off of number 5, put it on the one next to it, put the one next to it on number 5. If the code then moves to misfire cylinder next to it instead of number 5 and the 5 goes away, you know you got a bad coil. You go to any auto parts store, buy one and fix it and not ruin your vacation or get ripped off at a mechanic shop. Let's face the facts. Most mechanics charge anywhere from $150 to $250 an hour. That's hundreds of dollars per hour. Buy something like this for 70-something bucks. It's worth its weight in gold when it comes down to that. Because if a mechanic sees that you have a machine that's this sophisticated and this blue driver, hey, maybe $100, but it's even more sophisticated, they're gonna know this person isn't a complete idiot. They know stuff about cars. We can't pull a totally fast one on them because they've got knowledge. And knowledge pays. And even if you don't know that much now, believe me, you use one of these things, watch some of my videos, you got a phone that connects to the internet, you can learn stuff really quickly. You would be surprised at the amount of people that I've taught that send me emails that say, Scotty, thanks. You told me to buy the scan tool. I did. The dealer wanted $2,500 to do this, and I fixed it with $250 of parts, and it took me 45 minutes. So it behooves you to learn a little, have a machine like that, so you don't get fooled by lights that don't mean all that much a lot of times, but then again, they might. Because if that reduced power light is on and the check engine light is flashing on and off, you got a serious problem that you want to fix a lot sooner than later, let me tell you. Often, the reduced power light comes on, the check engine light doesn't even come on. It doesn't flash, it doesn't even come on. And in that case, normally, you don't have much of a problem. But a scan tool is going to tell you a lot more. You're really better off having knowledge. You're going to be much better off in the long run, not getting ripped off, maybe fixing it yourself, or maybe saying, okay, so second gear is messed up, but it works fine. When we're on the highway, I can make it home and deal with it then, instead of trying to fix it when you're somewhere where you don't know anybody and they don't know you, and odds are they're just getting ready to rip off anybody that comes into their shop because they want to make a lot of money and you're not local, and they realize, well, I'm never going to get any repeat business from the guy. He lives over there. So, knowledge is power. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.